Hi guys! Oh my gosh! Say hello, Ollie. That's Ollie. Oh, this is a disaster already. True to form, Lily, true to form. Hey everybody. Hi. I want you to see Ollie a little bit. It's so awkward. Okay, this isn't gonna work. I'm gonna have to move my tablet for you guys to see Ollie. I don't know if it's worth it. Okay, whatever. I have my teacup. It's a tea with Lily. Oh my gosh. Except this isn't tea, friends. This is not tea. This is I got hair in it. It's water with oh my gosh, I can't talk. It's because it's embarrassing. It's water with a laxative in it. Because that's an issue I am having. So, as you can tell, probably I'm at my friend Esther's house again. Esther is who Ollie lives with. Ollie is... Oh, come back, son, I need you. Ollie is my ex-cat that Esther took for me. And he's just hanging out with me right here. Sorry you can't see him. I don't feel like moving my camera so that you can. Because I haven't vlogged in forever, and here we are. Gosh, this is hard. It's hard to vlog while my stomach, while I'm at war with my intestines. But I'm just sitting here, and I figured why not. So this is a requested video, an often requested video, and I'm gonna do my best with it, right now, as I get more hair out of my cup. Gross. And that's dealing with an autism diagnosis in adulthood. That has been my life these last 3-ish years, since my diagnosis. It hasn't been 3 full years. I'm rounding up like a lot. Yeah, it hasn't been 3 full years, but it's close. 2.5. I don't know. I've lost count since my diagnosis of autism as an adult. And I'm gonna, real quick here, I'm gonna preface, or I'm gonna backstory just a little bit. My story's very complicated, so I'm not gonna go into it. But basically, I have a chronic illness, chronic fatigue syndrome, or ME, myalgic encephalomyelitis. Basically a lot of neurological symptoms. And my nervous system is a lot more fragile since getting that chronic illness. I won't go into that. I do have a video about that, about my chronic illness, how that happened. I should hold on to my cup since this is a tea with Lily, but it's not tea. Awkward. So yeah, so my story's complicated, but when my nervous system got more fragile, my autism traits became more apparent, and that's kind of what led to the diagnosis. Not really what led to it, but that's like the Cliff Notes to the Cliff Notes version of my life, basically, right now. So I have like a lot of the stimming behaviors. I got tics, like motor and vocal tics. I have those as well. Just another nervous system thing that happened. So just, that's a quick little thing. I know that this like might get views, and I just wanted to quickly explain to you guys who I am, where I'm at. I have autism, I have chronic illness. I basically have a train wreck for a nervous system, and that's my story. So coping with a diagnosis in adulthood, it's different for everybody, but what I'm hearing from people who contact me through my channel and on Facebook and all that, is that it's actually kind of a common thing. How do you deal with getting diagnosed with autism as an adult? It's the first thing I'm gonna say is give yourself time. I'm 3 years into it and it's still hard for me. Still I had a cat distraction. It's still hard for me to have that sense of self-acceptance. It's an acceptance thing for me for sure, especially since I do stim in public. If you don't know what stimming is, that's the repetitive behaviors that autistic people have. So you'll see me, I do hand clapping a lot, I rock a lot. So I stim a lot in public, and part of that journey for me is that coming to that place of having that confidence and that self-acceptance to feel comfortable doing that in public around people, as opposed to masking my traits or passing as neurotypical is what it's called. I'm doing my best to appear neurotypical and non-autistic. Kind of my high school years is what I did up into my diagnosis. That's kind of what a lot of people find, is that they are sort of met with this sort of big life existential question of like, how do you proceed with this information? I just found out I'm autistic. What do you do with that? Do you, And so for me, it was a bit of a different, it's hard for me to speak to that in a sense that the direction that I took, or that my life took, was sort of chosen for me. It was out of my hands. The way that things went for me, getting ill with chronic illness and my health issues that came with all of that, is really bad. So it was kind of decided for me that like there wasn't an option for me to choose to continue to live a neurotypical lifestyle, to continue to pass as neurotypical, to, I didn't really have that question to ask myself because it wasn't an option. The whole stimming in public thing, for me, it came down to whether I went in public or not. It wasn't like, oh, should I suppress myself? Like, there were times where that wasn't an option. It's not an option for me to suppress a lot of times, but the fact is I spend most of my time alone. These last few years I've been very isolated. So that's something that's happened to me, that like I didn't really have to answer a lot of those social questions. Like, do I continue to suppress what feels naturally to me? Do I come out publicly as autistic? Like, a lot of those social questions didn't really apply to me because life kind of took that direction without my permission. And that, like, I didn't have the freedom to choose, oh, I'm gonna suppress my stimming, because I was also having tics, on and off, and those are not suppressible either. So I was already doing funny, weird things in front of people, and it just came down to like, how secluded do I want to stay for the rest of my life? And so I am still pretty secluded. I'm still pretty isolated, just as my life is at this point. But that's going to be something that you're going to have to ask yourself, is like, do you come out publicly? And so what I did is I came out publicly on Facebook. Hindsight, for me personally, maybe I wouldn't do that again, because I had a lot of lack of support when I came out as autistic. It was just out of the blue for a lot of people, and the funny thing about this, a lot of these questions, sorry guys, I am having like, oh my gosh, I'm having moments of just pain in my stomach, if you know what that's like at all. But, so, yeah, a lot of the funny thing about this is a lot of these questions are like social questions, like, you may struggle with that already, and I did, and I think maybe the direction I took things, the way I came out, or the way I dealt with the social aspect of coming out publicly as autistic, as an adult, as a newly diagnosed adult, was kind of, wasn't as good as it could have been. But obviously social things don't come easily to people with autism. That's one of the triad impairments of autism, is social communication. So the way you're going to communicate that to people is going to be a difficult choice to make, I think, for a lot of people. Like I said, I chose to just come out publicly. I'm a writer, so writing things like in a post on Facebook, that's just the easiest way for me to communicate. That's the most eloquent way for me to communicate, and I can do it well, and I can express myself well, and so that was the route I chose. But I researched, and a lot of people, they'll take it a different way. Maybe you'll choose to keep that information to yourself, largely publicly, that you are autistic, because there is a lot of stigma. I'm going to tell you right now, there is a lot of stigma coming into it as an adult who was diagnosed, and everybody's story is different, and every autistic person is different, and the reason I didn't get diagnosed as a child is going to be different than why someone else, you know, maybe it was less severe. That's pretty common, is maybe, and forgive me for using functioning labels, I'm not a fan of them, but the kind of stigma, the kind of societal understanding is that there's high functioning autism and low functioning, and surely my autism isn't that severe because it would have been caught sooner or whatever. Like I said, my story is complicated and different, and I would say that maybe not everybody's gonna face some of the same questions that I had when I had my diagnosis and was asking me these questions about coming out as autistic publicly. That's a decision you have to make with yourself. That's a decision you have to make with like what your support level is and who you have kind of backing you up. Who, you know, I would strongly recommend you make sure you have the few friends, whether it's your parents or your family, or if it's like not family but like other friends like it was for me, who were supportive of you and helped you through that journey of like discovery and like figuring out how you're gonna identify as a person, like what's your identity as a person now. It's a rough journey, but it's a very important first step. You know, as you get that diagnosis and that new information, it is definitely an identity crisis of sorts. You have to figure out how you're gonna self-identify to the rest of the world. So for me, there wasn't a whole lot of choice. My nervous system lost its mind, decided it was going to do what it was going to do, and that's where we're at, and that's why I have my stimming behaviors, you know. But to kind of help you through that questioning and that decision, you know, make sure you have that support, even if it's a cat. I just love that he's hanging out with me right now. Ollie! Hey, say hi to everybody. Turd. He's not a turd, I love him to death. Sorry for the interruptions. I adore when I get to hang out with him. I miss him. So it's, yes, make sure you have that support system to help you through. I didn't have a lot of people, like I said, a lot of support, but I do have close friends and people who were really invaluable in these last 3 or so years of my journey. But those people that are going to be closest to you and are going to know you the best are going to help you, be able to help you the best through that journey and really know what's the best way to approach it for you. Whether you keep it to yourself and these few friends who maybe know some of your struggles better, or whether it's even necessary for you to announce to people that you have that diagnosis. I know for a lot of people it may be easier to do it that way. I think that's maybe why I did it that way. There was just this huge sense of obligation for me to inform the world. This is why I am the way that I am. You know, it was really very much for me, just this, I felt obligated to explain myself to the world. And so this was 3 years ago, and who I am as a person, and like being secure in myself is definitely different now, 3 years later on this journey. And so it's gonna be rough, but like I said, I'm 3 years into it. You have to give yourself time. There's no easy way to say what the best way is to divulge that information. It's up to you. It's whatever you're comfortable with, and be honest with yourself. You might want to go the option of like keeping it to yourself and a few close people because of the stigma and because it's hard to explain maybe to people. But that may not be the best thing for you. Maybe it is better that more people know. Or like it was for me, it was just an explanation to my general community of people that knew me or knew of me. As you know how Facebook goes, like I felt the need to explain myself to people. And so that's why part of my coming out story was a little bit, there was that sort of, that forced, it felt forced for me, and it maybe wasn't as delicate and whatever, the way that I did it. It did kind of come crashing, I think, into people's lives, and like I said, 3 years later, looking back, maybe I would have done it differently, handled it differently. But there was that huge need to just explain myself to the world. And so I would encourage you not to do it for that reason. to feel like the only reason to publicly announce your autism diagnosis as an adult is to explain yourself to people. You know, people are gonna be with you and supportive. They're gonna either A, make an effort to understand you, like on a one-on-one level in your life, and not just be like a total random stranger messaging you on Facebook asking what the heck you're talking about, because that happened to me, and it will probably happen to you if you're like just dropping a bomb on people. At least that's how it was for me. Because I don't let people in on, you know, I didn't let people in on the fact that I had suspected it, or, you know, like my whole searching process up to the diagnosis. Like, I didn't divulge that information publicly. So it did come out of nowhere. So maybe, you know, the big thing about it is why you're doing it. Don't do it because you feel like you owe anybody an explanation for the way that you are, because you don't. And don't do it out of pressure or anything like that. If it's something that, you know, quite frankly, it comes down to the fact that it's, you know, it is your medical, like, history and your diagnoses. There's nobody's business, you know, so I don't want anybody out there to feel like they have to share their autism diagnosis as an adult, for any reason that's not comfortable to them. You don't have to share it with anybody. You know, says the Lilly sharing out on YouTube basically my whole life, with my vlog, but it's different for everybody, and my biggest thing is that make sure you have that support when you first have your diagnosis, because it's very important. You don't want to have to go through this journey alone, and it's going to be a rough journey, dealing with, you know, coping with that diagnosis as an adult. It's a different story. It's just a different story than getting a diagnosis as a child, as anyone can tell you. We're a different group of people out there, us autistic adults finding out later, rather than being, you know, there's the parents who are finding out about their children. It's just a different demographic of people. I don't know, I feel like I'm not making any sense. But this video is getting up there, and multi-part video. I'll talk about this a lot. I'll share a bit more about my journey coming to acceptance, but that's part one, I guess. I haven't vlogged in forever. Alright, friends, I'm gonna continue to do battle with my colon. TMI! And say bye to Ollie. Say bye. You gonna say bye? Yeah. Bye. Alright, friends, it was good to get a vlog done for you again soon. And I'm clearly tired. Alright, friends, that's all I have for you. I will be back, I promise. The end. Stay classy, stim freely. If you are newly diagnosed, hang in there. Check out my videos. That's my life. That's been my life. So hang out, subscribe, like, let me know that you're into this. Dislike if you're not. I'm not, like, I can take criticism. It's alright. Hit the dislike button. I'm not encouraging you guys to dislike my videos, but for real, the feedback is just choice. So, the end. Stop rambling. Until next time, my friends. Goodbye.